Hello, welcome everybody to Bristol, Indiana. My name's Josh the RV Nerd. We are kicking it down here at the Ember RV headquarters today, getting our very first look at their new rooftop tent system. And it's funny, ever since the very first Ember teaser video I put out like way back when, previewing everything they had, something like this has been requested by viewers like you. Which, now that I say that out loud, it sounds like very similar to something you might hear off like PBS television or anything like that. But what's really neat about this is this can expand your sleeping capacity in a small camper to just absolute maximum and give you the ability to sleep in separate individual spaces, the largest number of bodies I've ever seen in a small camper. You could potentially have 4 separate sleeping areas just in the bunk area of this little trailer, plus the True Queen bed up front, plus things like the sofas that can fold down or dinettes in some models. It just depends. What I want to do with this video is I want to kind of walk you through and show you the ins and the outs of it, kind of show you the ups and downs. I want to give you information on what's really cool and handy about this. I also want to point out some of the maybe drawbacks or points of consideration that you may want to factor into your decision-making process. And the first question, how do you get up there? Well, the first question, I think, also answers the second question organically. Where can I get this option applied? And basically, you can get this in any of the Ember models that have MSL in the model designator. Their multifunction storage locker or missile bunk system, the adjustable bunk system. If you're not familiar with this, basically, if you're noticing, it is a now double over double versus single over single, adjustable, convertible, completely removable bunk system. But if you do what I've done here in a classic, what I call Jack and Jill bunk arrangement that used to be very common in the industry when I started in this business in '09 and has since kind of phased out. If you go double bunk on the bottom, you can literally just use the bottom bunk to climb your way up here, and you're going to effectively just use the bunks to walk your way right up there. And just to kind of demonstrate that, even somebody in my size can get her done. Now, I've never attempted this in real time. I've only got my left hand here. I got the right hand holding the camera. But I kind of just want to show you this, even though you're only kind of seeing my personal perspective. I'm just sort of putting my knees up here, and the right hand to climb myself up would make this a lot easier. But by the way, if you're seeing that light flickering, it's because there's a light switch for the bottom bunk that my leg just kicked. They're literally thinking of moving that light switch, which I think was in a fine location, but now that they've adjusted this and done more stuff, they're finding, hey, maybe we can improve this in different ways. But anyway, you just get up on the lower bunk, then you climb yourself up to the next bunk, and basically I'm standing on the lower bunk right now, but even an adult-sized person can climb their way up here. Now, if you notice, there's this funny little thing. What I can tell you is that this is really made, sized, and weight rated for probably one adult, maybe a couple small kids, maybe theoretically an adult and a kid could get up there, because this is rated for 300 pounds minimum. Ember is actually asking Lippert, the supplier of the hard shell rooftop tent system here, to double check that, because Ember likes their bunks rated for 600 pounds. They're going to see if this can actually be rated for more weight. But what you would do, you actually need to climb all the way in the front of this thing, and then you're going to flip this over, this cushion, because that is what's going to cover the little access hole to get up and down here. And the bottom of this bunk actually has a hard platform built right into it, so that big open gap, if like you sit on it, you're not going to go bloop and fall right through the thing. What it does mean, though, you may encounter a situation where you've got a kid in the lower bunk going woof, woof, woof to the kid in the upper bunk and literally raising the roof over him to, buck and chuck this kid all over the place. So just keep in mind everything like that. It kind of comes with a little bit of a hiccup and a caveat when it comes to parents. You may have to occasionally parent this thing. But let's dive into some more details of this sucker. Now, as always, I don't like to use tricky wide-angle fisheye camera lens mode. It would make the whole thing look and feel bigger, but I don't want to misrepresent it. So what kind of space do we have up here? The exterior footprint of this is 48 inches by 84 inches, so 4 foot by 7 foot outside, obviously a little smaller. But again, the idea that, 2 small kids, an adult, could sleep up here. If there's an adult and kid that are like used to co-sleeping, that could probably work. Up top here, you may have noticed that kind of kicked off right there. That is an LED motion light that also has a little magnet clip on it. Now, you can also change the color warmth on it. You can use it just like a flashlight. You know, there's a lot of different things that you could kind of do with this. And when you're done with it, it just grabs and hooks right up there. You do not need to take that off to lower the whole tent system. And speaking of that, speaking of dropping the roof of this thing down right here, that's where this thing comes in. It almost looks like you're a little train conductor going toot toot. By the way, truckers of the world, you know, kids don't do this thing to ask them to honk their horns anymore. Truckers love that. So teach your kids to do the arm pump thing so the truckers are brr, brr. But anyway, basically on the outside of this thing, there's a handful of gas struts, and all you do is just pull this thing down. And even with just my left arm, I can pull this down. But I noticed as I was doing that, sometimes the outside tent material is kind of inclined to sort of get bunched up and pinched up, and it was really hard to sort of fight with it and keep it pulled inside the clamshell without getting pinched on the outside. But if you notice this little bungee thing over my shoulder, they thought of that. So you see these little bungee clips, there's actually 4 on either side, and effectively what you're going to do is cross stretch them like I've done over here. So the 2 on the front on the left will hook to the 2 on the side on the right. And what that will do, you can even kind of see it happening here. It will organically pull that material in so that as you're doing the train conductor choo-choo, I can't say conductor today, can I? As you're pulling this roof structure down, it will make sure all that clamshell material is pulled in and doesn't get left outside, pinched outside, damaged, or anything like that. But you know, I'm a parent, and I start thinking these parent things, kind of like I was talking about how the kids might, you know, mess with one another a little bit, and you're gonna have to be like, hey, all right, knock it off. I started thinking, what's really stopping that clamshell from closing in on my kid? You know, there's a ladder where you can get up to the roof of this thing. What if one of the other kids acts stupid and wants to kind of, you know, put them in a French press, basically, and squeeze this thing down? What if there's a really severe gust of wind that can push those down? Because it's gas struts that hold that open, in the same way that, you know how awnings on RVs are adjustable, but it's a gas strut that keeps it level? If you didn't know, now you do, the more you know. The thing that I thought of is, like, what if those gas struts get weak and tired or damaged over time? What is going to prevent that rooftop tent system from falling in and squishing my kid? Well, they thought of that too. And it actually comes in the form of this little bar over here. It may not be super easy to see on screen because of the backlighting from the tent system and everything. But very, very similar to, like, when you lift up the hood of your vehicle, and some of us, like myself with my amazing 2012 Kia Soul, don't be jealous of my buggy. You know, I have to put up like a piano hinge, basically, to keep the hood of my car up. This is the same thing. There's a rod that goes up, and there's a hook in the rooftop section that can keep it from falling down. So when you go to do your little train conductor methodology here, it can't fall on you. So provided you remember to do this, you can make sure that the kids don't end up squishing themselves. And as long as I'm here, one of the other things that's really kind of cool about this is this has a full, like, all of these panels, this panel, this panel, this panel that you can't see, they can all zip down like a tent, like a hybrid camper, like a pop-up. So if you want awesome views, awesome airflow up here, you can get that kind of function. But if you want to, you know, kind of keep everything out of here, keep the light out, keep all that stuff, you can. Now, obviously, when you pull these back, there are screens here so that you're not letting the bugs in. But one thing I want to let you know is basically this is a sectionalized, removable kind of tent. So what that means is, like, let's just say that your kid brings a friend, and your kid's friend throws a stick and punctures the side of this thing. I don't want to say your kid would never do that, because your kid would never do that, of course. It's always the neighbor kid. But if this thing gets damaged, it literally just button snaps off, almost like a cover on a boat, and you can snap a new one in. No real, like, tech physical installation really necessary on this thing. And by the way, just over here on the other side of the RV, one of the questions I had is, like, is there any power run up here? And because, like, you saw that light up top, that was magnetic, it was removable. they actually do run a set of USB plugs over here. So if you do, want the kids to be able to charge their phone or anything like that up here, or just let's say you're stuck inside on a rainy day and you need every little separate space you can get in this small camper, you can have this kind of relaxed rooftop hidey hole, basically, where you can sit up here and keep your phone charged up and get through the day. Or there are some things like USB fans, other USB lights that you could potentially put up here to provide some extra function and benefit to this upper area. Now, I hate to do this, but I do have you in wide angle mode right now so that you can kind of see what I was talking about with the way that when you have all the bungee things in place, which looks really confusing, it's really not. If you reach up here and you grab this, as you pull this down, you see how everything kind of pulls right in on us, so you don't got to worry about it. Now from there, there's a big black bracket attached to the top roof section of this. You're gonna hook it to this little bracket down here, and then you can cinch it down in place, and you can turn that to tighten it or loosen it to whatever you need. And if you notice, you can even like padlock that, so you can make sure if you don't want that sucker to pop open accidentally for any reason, because when you're going down the road, this is at the back of the RV, this RV is going to get the most bounce back here, even though this RV has that amazing Kurt trailing arm off-road suspension, which I've towed so many trailers over the years. This is the best towing suspension I've ever seen on an RV before, and personally experienced. It can still bounce around, especially if you are going to take this thing off the pavement. It would really be a good idea to lock that, even with just like a quick pin, even if it's not going to be a padlock for something like that for security's sake. And just to give you a reference, when it's all closed up from ground level, that's what she looks like right there. So it doesn't really stick up any further than the air conditioner, maybe slightly. But adding this system right here will not really have any significant impact on the overhead clearance of your RV. But something I've really learned is every time you add something, you lose something else. I started thinking, what is this going to do to our cargo carrying capacity? This whole system, the brackets, the full install, every single thing on this will add about 180 pounds to your Ember RV. So if when you start looking at the specs of any of the models that can be outfitted with this, any of the MSL adjustable bunk models, if you want to add this option, you're going to have to subtract about 180 pounds from your cargo capacity and add 180 pounds to your dry weight. Now, to help offset that, I don't know if you're noticing here, but these are not the same tires that Ember has been using. They've been aware that their cargo capacities have been at sometimes minimal, to be generous about it, but they knew they needed to bulk up in that area, and the least common denominator in the equation was actually their tires. They're now using a bigger, heavier Goodyear Wrangler tire. That, in case you weren't aware, not all Wranglers are the same. They're using a heavier duty grade of Wrangler tire that will increase their cargo capacity about 300 pounds per model on your single axles, and it may have an even greater impact on your tandem axles. That hasn't fully rolled out at the time of this filming, but moving forward, about the time the rooftop tents come out, that will be something that will be applied to pretty much all of them, and rolling forward will be true. So the new tires will more than offset the extra weight of the rooftop tent system. So compared to the Embers of last year, even adding the rooftop tent, even adding max solar, they will have the same or better cargo carrying capacity than they ever had. And if you don't add any of that extra stuff, they'll have even more, obviously. Now, as I was looking at this, I kind of stood back here visually, and I sort of noticed under the back of that rooftop tent, I could see what looked like a bit of a chimney, and then literally a gap between the roof and the rooftop tent system. And then I realized why. If I get you up close here and look at this thing, you realize that the rooftop tent is actually level. But if you remember how these Ember Overlands are constructed, they have a 3-inch thick laminated roof structure, Asdel top and bottom. It's basically a double thick sidewall. And because when you laminate like that, you can't have an exterior vaulted roof, they actually slant the RV roofing north to south. If you look at the back of the awning, then you look toward the front of the awning, you see how that white part of the sidewall kind of starts slivering through and then growing. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So I get that it looks a little funky, but all of the brackets, or as the one of the designers likes to call it, the bracketry, which sounds like a nerdism, doesn't it? It's an emberism, perhaps. It is all designed to work this way. However, with the inclusion of the new rooftop tent system, a new problem has arisen, and Ember is already aware of this, so I just kind of wanted to give you a proactive heads up. If you look at this in its current iteration, you have to literally climb over the rooftop tent to access your roof for various upkeep or checking it out kind of reasons, and the rooftop tent system can support that. It can support you kind of getting over it, but I don't really like that. I don't really care for that. My first thought was, why don't you move the ladder over here to this side? Because with the way you have to tilt those ladders out, those telescopic removable ladders, it will clear that tire, and actually I think the tire will help people understand they do need to slant that ladder a little bit. But then I realized that there's the bathroom skylight right there, and that wouldn't work. And if you remember back to the very early days on Embers, they actually had a second mount for their ladders over here on the side. So chances are, by the time this all goes into production, they're going to reinstitute the side ladder mount and probably remove the rear ladder mount so that everything is all kosher and everything's going to work there. The reason that side ladder mount was removed is because for some reason on the sidewall, owners were hanging that ladder vertically and putting all of the weight exclusively on that bracket and ripping it out the side of the RV. Because that is the thing with these telescopic removable ladders. They are not designed to hang vertically. They are not designed for the RV to exclusively hold the weight of you and the ladder and all that stuff. They are designed to come down, angle down, kiss the ground, and then I guess kind of like how Jimi Hendrix kissed the sky, but really not at all the same at all. And as a special surprise, I've got a little guest this morning. Look who I found up here.
Oh hey, just doing some light reading. I'm Ashley Bontrager, founder of Ember, and I'm sitting in the rooftop tent, which I have to give the credit to all of you for all your comments. You continue to give us great ideas on how we can be innovative and keep our products fresh and giving you what you want. So thank you.
Not your first press release?
And how cool is that? Getting a word from the founder, basically, because your input, like I said, PBS style viewers like you, you're almost in partnership here, helping develop and drive the future in the direction of the company and their products right here. I think that's very cool. So leave some comments. Let us know what you think about this. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Because again, it's optional. You don't have to take it. This is not forced onto stuff. Let them know how they could improve this or anything, or a floor plan they should be building, any of that. And if you appreciate how we get down here and get you this information, if you're a returning member of the RV Nerd Herd, hit that like button. Would appreciate it if you subscribed, if you like what you see. Catch all the other new stuff that comes down here that we get for you. And if you're curious to know, pricing on this, availability and all that, like I don't have that information available to me right now, but I will leave you a link in the video description to our Ember Overland inventory where you can find this feature, so that over time as we start getting some of these in, you can see if we have them in stock and what the whole shebang is running, or if you're just kind of curious how much one of these might cost with or without it, because pricing on an RV can be so variable based on shipping distance and options. Like shipping and max solar versus base solar could easily swing this RV over $10,000 before the rooftop tent system is included. So contact our local teams. We can always get you the quote that is most specific to your situation, wants, and needs. And until next time, take care, stay safe, have fun, and happy camping, everyone.